a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without gather round everyone and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep treason if chosen name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, full numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan.
Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writings on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue Liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used a literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening too. So when you hear the call, devils unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. We are going up to open up the phone lines rather quickly. I did shout out, have a call for conservative MAGA folks to call in. But if you're a sparkler, if you're new to the show, you want to call in, just say hey, say what's going on. Be more than happy to have you call in as well. Phone line will go up in a second. Just to make sure, if you've not subscribed to the channel already, please make sure to do so over on YouTube, or you can follow over on Twitch. Different ways to support the show, but the most important thing is to like, comment, share, etc., because that helps the algorithm, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. And if you're not used to the show yet, we have t-shirts available that say that have Melt Ice, the FDTs, etc. All of those are available on the on any of the videos on YouTube, which you can get to at liberaldanradio.com as well. So again, thank you everybody for joining. Appreciate you. All the different ways. I'm sure Jolie in the chat, one half of the mod squad, will give all of the other different ways that you can support. You know, Venmo, Buy Me a Cider, etc. Shouts out to CSL and to Andrea for bringing all the sparklers in here. Appreciate y'all as always. That's why I put down the countdown clock today, because I figured it's better to have the countdown clock so you know that the show is coming up and that you haven't missed anything when as you all are coming in with the raid. I appreciate y'all spending some additional time with me here tonight on this Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central, with some slight exceptions, of course. So several things to talk about today, including the fact that we have that raid on the election headquarters or whatever down there in Georgia, trying to get all of the information, because Donald Trump is just obsessed with the idea that he won the election. He didn't win the 2020 election, but he's obsessed with the idea that he did, and he refuses to admit. Like, he will never admit and say, you know what, I lost. You know what, I'm over it. I lost. Let's move on. But nope, he's going to keep kicking that dead horse until it's turned into something other than horse meat, I guess. I don't know. But there's that to talk about. You have somebody who tried to break not Chuck Mangione, Luigi Mangione. Chuck Mangione is the guy that did Feel So Good with the trumpet or whatever. Luigi Mangione, somebody tried to break him out of prison today, apparently, or jail or whatever. So that's interesting. Someone's trying to be creative. I guess I think it involved a fork and a pizza cutter or something like that. He pretended to be an FBI agent and would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you darn kids, right? Allegra says, I watch Hal and O'Hara Live. Well, welcome, and you should come watch Liberal Dan Radio as well. We got lots of long content. We got lots of short form content as well. If you can't watch live, all the shows are available back. We're welcome to have you here. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash that like button as well. Wonder Mom says, I'm also crocheting a functional checker set. That's pretty neat. Interesting. Awesome. Shouts out to, I usually give shouts out to a lot of people. We got Steve from across the pond. And we got other people, the goddess Kimchi, Chad, etc. A bunch of other people who are in the show. I will say hi as I see your comments. But I appreciate y'all, everybody, for joining the show as well. I don't know how long tonight's show is going to be. I didn't have that much time to do much show prep for the show, simply because of the fact I'm still dealing with the fact that I've, losing my current position where I'm currently working because the law firm's dissolving. So we're working on getting a new position. Things are looking good, but I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, right? So there you go. Thank you, Jolie, for sharing the links on how to support the show in both of the chats. Let's go ahead. We did turn off the audio so we don't have to hear it. If you do want to call in, if you want to talk about what's going on in this country, you agree or disagree, you want to debate me, I will have a few rules that I have set up in the show chat for Liberal Dan Radio, which is if you call in, if you're trying to call in and somebody is, already on the line, don't call. Wait for that person to hang up, and then take your opportunity to call at that point as well. If it's just, I don't have a way to screen calls above and beyond just the initial one. So if someone's on the phone, we'll try and remember to turn off that thing while somebody's called in. But if I forget to turn it off, just please remember, don't call in when someone else is calling in. Be nice, kind, don't be rude, don't be bigoted, don't be sexist, racist, etc. That's a quick way to get you hang up. We're going to have nice, polite conversations, whether or not we agree or disagree on the topic at hand. And finally, I am going to invoke the Tommy rule, which one of the other streamers who a lot of my listeners or watchers also used to watch, my dude, who has done other things. I don't know what he's up to at this point in time, but if enough people super chat at least $30 when somebody's on the phone, I will hang up on you, and I'll give you a fair warning. Say, look, we've gotten $30 in super chats. What's your last thing you want to say? Have a good night. Peace out. But I will give the people who are in the YouTube chat at least the ability to super chat and hang up on somebody and move on to the next caller. So, Orb Rumor, the Danarino, Danalib, Danapalooza, the Dan Man, making copies. Yeah, thank you. So, imagine if Biden super chatted to get you to hang up on somebody. Nope. That's the problem with me turning off of the thing, so you don't have to hear the phone ringing, is I forget to turn it back on when when I want to play a bit. So you heard the end of it. I'm sorry, Atrocious at Every Game. Atrocious at Every Game likes me to be the performing monkey, but I have no problem being the performing monkey, right? That's what I do. It's not the soundboard that wasn't working. It was the audio. My audio was turned off, so you didn't have to hear the ringing. But imagine if Biden not left on the soundboard audio.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, that screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
And there you go. We now add Trucker John's in the chat. Good to see you, Trucker John. We got Teresa in the chat too. Good to see you. Laney Tang is also in the chat. Heard some of your music. Really good pipes there you got there. Thank you very much for that. Ali Osher goes, I wish Biden would sue Trump for defamation. Oh, I'm sure plenty of people could sue Trump for defamation. I think Trump's still trying to get out of paying E. Jean Carroll, right? But anyway, if you do want to call in and have a conversation, you can call in, be it if you're conservative like Chad, or if you're somebody who's even more conservative than Chad or whatever, and you want to debate me on the issues, please call in and do so. I welcome it. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. And we also, but again, if you're a sparkler, you just want to say, hey, you want to give a shout out to Hal and say how wonderful Hal is, I will agree with that sentiment or whatever. Let's see. Doesn't Trump's immunity extend to not getting sued, yet somehow he can sue other people? I think he's probably protected from getting sued, at least while he's in office. But, it is... Oh, I'm sorry. That's Donald's line. Thank you, Donald. But yeah, it's crazy how, a president can pretty much be as dumb and stupid and horrible as he wants to be, and he can't get sued, at least while he's in office. But he can sure sue the pants off of everybody else to try and get them to pay him money, because that's part of his overall grift. Sue people, create ridiculous things, half of which you're never going to come up with, like, Trump phones, Trump watches, Trump shoes, Trump vibrators. I don't know. I mean, Melania might need that. Speaking of Melania, today's the launch of her propaganda piece, paid for by Bezos to try and, kiss the Trump administration's ass and try and figure out other ways to funnel more money. And now, from what I heard, look, I predicted this on yesterday's show. I literally talked about how, like the RNC could do things like, pay for a book. Like somebody writes a book who's a politician, let's say Kristi Noem, for example, the politician, you know, the RNC able to use campaign fundraising that they'll do, and they'll use it to buy books to give away that a politician like Kristi Noem or MTG or Lauren Boebert or whatever, all those people would write. And then that's the way to funnel money that would normally be covered by federal election funds or federal election rules, and then shunt it to people who are candidates because, oh, you're not paying for the campaign, you're just buying their book. And I said they could probably do something similar with, you know, whatchamacallit, with movie tickets. If they wanted to, they could just buy out whole entire blocks of movies and just give the tickets away. Well, apparently some people are doing just that. They are offering people $50 and a free ticket to go watch the movie. So they're not just paying for those tickets. They're paying for the tickets, giving them away, and saying, hey, if you come watch this movie, we will pay you $50. It would take me a whole heck of a lot more than $50 to convince me to go sit through that drivel. Probably, it would have to be at least 100 per person, and even that is pushing it. So, we do it a call. We are going to have our first call of the name. I think this is Big Hook. Yes, it is. For some reason, I am not scrolling properly, so why is this not working? Hold on. There you go. Answer. There you go. I was having some minor technical difficulties there, Big Hook, but I finally got to answer the phone. So thank you for calling in. Appreciate you. How are you today?
Hanging in there.
Wait.
Yeah.
I have to give this joke and hold your earphones for the yeah sound. Space Plum over on Twitch. A genuine review. If this movie was shown on a plane, people would still walk out.
Yeah.
The only reason
fairly accurate.
The only reason that comment makes me angry is because I didn't think of it first. So, again, welcome, Big Hook. Thank you for calling in, and what we will wait for. If you're a conservative or somebody else wants to call in while Big Hook's on the phone, just mention it in the chat. Tag me, say, hey, I want to call in, and again, you know, we'll ask Big Hook to call back in later, whatever. I guess technically people could pay to get you off the phone too, but you know, it is what it is, right?
I guess if you really want to waste your money bumping me off, I guess. I don't know. That's hard to say. I mean, I don't know.
I'm doing the Tommy rule. So I'm invoking the Tommy rule with this, especially when I'm inviting a free-for-all for conservatives to come call in as well. So, I mean, hopefully they wouldn't do it to you, but still, you know, if I'm going to do one, I'll do it for everybody, right? So anyway, how's your leg? How are you tonight?
I'm getting better. Just came back from my physiotherapy, so you know, doing what I'm doing. Man, it's like it's so depressing watching the news these days. It's just, you know, like the good stories, the stories of people having nice things happen to them are few and far between. You know, like, I mean, thank God for cat and dog videos on YouTube, because otherwise you wouldn't see anything that would lift your mood and bring a smile to your face. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, it's.
First of all, I want to say, probably about a good 10 to 20% of those 10 to 20% of those videos that are cat and dog videos are now AI.
Yeah, I
know. Your favorite person just paid $30.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, Chad paid $30. So,
thanks, Chad.
Chad.
I'm sure Dan will put it to a worthwhile charity. You know.
Last sentence, I guess, before you go, I guess, because I got to be fair, right? I said if they do it,
okay, that's fine.
So.
I'll call in later if I'm allowed.
Anyway. But you know, you got a last sentence.
If Chad wants to replace me, then he can replace me. But if he's not going to call, then that's just an act of cowardice. So, you know, I mean, that's if he's willing to pay $30 to silence me so that way he can have his voice heard, then call in, Chad. Call in.
And then
Anyway.
someone's going to immediately do it to him too, which would be amazing. But anyway, thank you so much for
Okay.
calling in, Big Hook.
Yeah,
you primed
no
the
worries.
pump, and have a good rest of your night. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right, so yes, you did give me a nice good laugh there, Chad. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate the $30 super chat, so thank you so much. But the phone lines are now open again. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. Let me just go ahead and up this over here because this is being stupid. So I can actually see what's going on here and actually answer the phone when people call in. So Trucker John, last movie I saw in the theater was One Battle After Another. A very good movie, mirrors what's going on in America. Highly recommend it. Somebody said the last movie they saw was Talladega Nights. You know, when I think about, I like to imagine Jesus and on stage with a Leonard Skinner concert. I like the infant baby Jesus the best. He was a man. Anyway. But yes, it's been depressing since Trump has occupied the news nonstop for the last 10 years. Yes, I agree with you, Remo. Thank you for that comment. 100%. And more bits from Wundermom. Thank you for the 66 bits. Oh, we got a call coming in. Look at that. Well, you know, Chad, I don't know how much time you're going to have on it because, you paid so someone else. You might have opened the floodgates, but hey, it's perfect.
I just wanted to, hey, it's good to hear your voice through the phone. So I can't get my house quiet. I've got like my daughter's watching a movie, stuff like that in the background. But what I will say is I'm just joking. Let Big Hook back up. I just wanted to ruffle his feathers a little bit, and that's all.
Well, that's fine. So Big Hook can call back in if you want that. And but look, the last few weeks I've needed a good laugh, so thank you so much for that laugh. Appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah. See ya.
All right, bye. All right. So we are back online again. If you want to call back in, Big Hook, feel free to do so. That would be just hilarious, though, if we just, Big Hook just calls in and then somebody else is like, nope, $30, hang up on Big Hook. Call in again. Nope. Call in. Nope. Call in. Nope. That's hilarious. So, but thank you, Wundermom, for the 66 bits on top of Alyosha's 11 bits. Well, I should make it so that if somebody pays 2 bits, it just pays shave and a haircut, right? Although bits are only worth, I think, a penny and not 2 bits, not half a quarter as it should be worth. Right? Is that right? I mean, if you're gifting bits on Twitch, if you gift 2 bits, shouldn't that be a quarter? Right? I mean, right? Anyway, we do love Big Hook. Yes, we do. I like to picture Jesus in a tuxedo T-shirt because it says I want to be formal, but I'm here to party too. Yes, talking about my wife for a little bit. My wife, for at least a long time, would say, "I can't stand Will Ferrell movies," and I'm like, "Well, what about Talladega Nights? Okay, I like that one. What about Blades of Glory? Okay, I like that one. What about Elf? I like that one. So what don't you like that? What about Step Brothers? I like that one too. So." She doesn't like the idea of Will Ferrell, but she likes the Will Ferrell in whatchamacallit. What's the word I'm looking for? There we go. We got Big Hook again.
Big Hook.
There you go. Welcome back, Big Hook.
Hey, it's me again.
Gotta appreciate the good sense of humor, right?
Well, I sort of feel like I'm wearing Liberal Dan's G-string that just had $30 shoved in it, but there you go.
I don't know if anybody wants to see that. Maybe some, but I don't kink shame, but I might kink ask why. Anyway, welcome back. Welcome back, Big Hook.
Yeah, no, I'm just really, like I said, it's been depressing. The new video that surfaced of Preddy there kicking the back of the vehicle there, and these people then going, oh well, he was this bullshit up. He was a paid agitated protester. Is
right.
bullshit. I mean,
They will make up as long as they disagree with the person politically, they will make up any excuse to justify law enforcement murdering somebody. Yet, had law enforcement used lethal and deadly force against, like, Jake Lang, or when they did use lethal force against terrorist Barbie, aka Ashley Babbitt, they're crying, they shouldn't have they used too much force, why'd they have to shoot her, why'd they have to kill her, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what, maybe she should have complied. That's what they like to say all the time. And it's like, well, when didn't she comply? Well, she didn't comply when she broke through a broken window of a locked door. She didn't comply when she was not obeying police orders to stay away and crossed barricades and all this other crap.
Yeah.
Lots of all the different ways that they didn't comply, and it could have been a lot bloodier. And one thing I've said before, and I actually heard somebody else make this point on another talk radio station as well, which is, if roles would have been reversed, and if it was a bunch of like Black Panthers and other non-white activists protesting at the Capitol, complaining over a election that they felt was stolen from them, the entire Capitol would have just littered in the blood of those people, and they would have not bat any eyelashes over the death and gore and destruction that would have taken place. But because it was, one white woman who was a domestic terrorist, that was a bad thing. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's like the latest thing that I found rather disparaging is there are protesters who've had their faces recorded by these ICE agents, and who say that now that when they return home, their windows and doors are busted in, and that the house is completely unlivable because there's no way to keep the cold out. So this retaliation has already begun, and this is government tyranny of the highest order now. I don't know what you say anymore. These guys are animals. They really are. There was no reason to.
I am mad at myself for not going and get this clip, because I was listening to the conservative station I listened to, the Jeff Career program, the Ringside Politics one, and there was somebody calling in from Minnesota, don't you know? And she, hates walls, supports ICE, all this other bullshit, basically bootlicker, deep-throating the boot, if you will. And she actually called in and made the comment that she wishes the police would turn fire hoses on the protesters in the middle of the freezing cold weather. Turning a fire hose on somebody in this freezing cold weather is no different than murdering them with a gun, because they're going to die of hypothermia. But she was, and then the host was like, that sounds like a great idea. Nope, that's just another call for the death of people who you happen to disagree with, and it's disgusting. Again, Hillary Clinton was right when she said that a bunch of them were a basket of deplorables. She was just wrong about how many of them are deplorables, because she only said half, and that was too few. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, that's just it. The bounds by which of cruelty that they find acceptable is just, disgusting. The worst part is knowing that even the local law enforcement is infested with these people. That's just it. There are lots of MAGA that are law enforcement officers, and and I'm sure it colors the way that they service the people based on whatever, and that's just it. And it's getting to the point now where, you could go to a hospital, and if somebody finds out you're, how you stand politically, it could affect the outcome of the treatment that you're going to get. This stuff is just ridiculous. And that's the thing. Trump has basically turned up the hatred, racist, bigoted, white supremacy model up to 1,000, and the problem is now it's going to be almost impossible to turn it off, because these people, Politics Girl said they're irredeemable. You have to just write them off. These are people that cannot be reached. They don't want to listen to reason. They only want to watch what they see in their own silo. They will accuse you of everything that they are in fact guilty of, and that's just it. You know, I mean, that's what's so sad is that they will accuse others of what acts of cruelty they actually inflict upon others, because they think through the white supremacist master race theory that they are somehow entitled, and that if you don't follow their example, that you're a race traitor as well. And this is sick on a level. And then you call them Nazis, and they go, "We're not Nazis. What are you talking about?" And it's like, this is exactly what the Nazis did. They had skin color charts. They had forceps there to basically measure your head size and all these other things that they used to. And then they decided, oh well, this one is superior to this one, and this and it was like so unscientific. You know, I mean, it was the worst voodoo out there. You know, and
well, the
these
answer,
people
the answer to the question of when they say we're not Nazis, the appropriate answer should be you know what, you're right, you're not Nazis, because the Nazis at least showed their face. You're even too cowardly to be a Nazi. That's the sad part. Like, the Nazis had one step up on these idiots. They at least showed who their face. They were actually proud of their bigotry. Y'all aren't even proud of the bigotry. Dark Gigas, I did want to make a comment. I mean, you know, again, the mods are free to mod it as they want. I don't deal with, you know, I don't tell the mods how not to mod or whatever. I do want to know what PSG GSP stands for, though. I don't understand what that means. I know what FAFO stands for. But Dark Gigas, look, once Big Hook gets off the phone lines will be open, and you'll be able to call in, and you can tell me just exactly how Alex Preddy obstructed ICE, how Renee Nicole Good obstructed ICE, because you can't, because they didn't, but you can go ahead. You know, kicking in a tail light, A, doesn't obstruct ICE, and B, does not justify the death penalty 10 days later. But again, you can.
Well, not only that, but
call in after
but
you're
here's
off the
the other thing. The other thing is we don't know the context by which he actually did that. It could be that they assaulted him, and they did assault him. I mean, they ended up breaking one of his ribs a week earlier. And then the other thing is that's within the same timeline right after Renee Good was killed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that the tensions weren't high already because these goons were going around and doing their thing, you know, you are sadly mistaken. I mean, this is just it. I mean, that's what, 3 or 4 days after Renee was gunned down when the incident was recorded where he kicked the taillight. I mean, that's a reasonable response.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
right.
They're out there roaming the streets, and they're going to, and you know that they've already killed one of yours, and they're out there literally looking for another person to kill, hoping that it won't be, you know, filmed.
Right.
And that's just it now. You know, I mean, that's what it boils down to, is everybody has to film, because otherwise, you know, these guys won't be held accountable. And the masks.
I think it's bold of you to suggest that filming them will. I think it's bold of you to
wear
suggest.
masks.
I think it's bold of you to suggest that they would actually be held accountable being filmed, because we have this on film, and ICE is, and the federal government has said, nope, we're not going to investigate this on civil rights charges. We're not going to investigate this for hate crime charges. We're not going to investigate for any purpose. They believe it was a good shooting, and they continue to perpetuate that lie, and because they keep lying about everything over and over again until, you know, on the beliefs that enough people will believe their lie, and as such, they'll continue to be able to do whatever it is they want to do. Even though you have, what was it, Tom Tillis now? Or somebody said, was it Tillis that somebody said, somebody insulted him and said that he's a know-nothing, and Tillis' response was, well, great, I'm now able to be the Secretary of Homeland Security at this point, because that's, you know, and I was like, ooh,
yeah,
damn. That's a cold burn, sick burn coming from the from someone on the right. So,
well, there was one caller that was on Dean's show, and he was like, "Oh, well, you know, after an investigation, you know, you can't," and he was trying to make the hindsight argument that in the heat of the moment, shit happens. And the thing was is that, and Dean gave the best answer I think I've heard. He said, there is no hindsight. He got pepper sprayed in the face. He was thrown to the ground. He was on all fours. Meaning that all hands were on the ground. They removed the gun. He was still on all fours. So there was no way for him to react or attack or anything. And then they shot him.
Right. What was it? Now, 3 altercations that have been documented between him and ICE, including the one where he was murdered, and he never once pulled the gun on them. Never once pulled the gun on him. And these ICE idiots will continue to say that they'll continue to say that, oh, he was there to cause a threat, to be a menace, to massacre people, yada yada yada, just like bovine excrement said. And again, all of these assholes, all these conservative MAGA assholes, are just going to sit there and just repeat the lies of this gaslighting administration because they support what they're doing. They will justify and make excuses for the murder of innocent people because they themselves are not innocent people and support this horribleness that is going on. So,
well, I mean, that's like the Voltaire quote, right? Those who entertain atrocities, this is what these people are. They want to see a lynching. It's like porn for these guys. They enjoy watching this stuff. This is the stuff that they like. They like watching guys shoot rubber bullets at point blank range and blinding a guy for life. I mean, these people are the furthest thing from professionals, and the thing is that the reason that they do it is because they are masked, because they are hidden behind a shield, because Donald Trump has said, take the gloves off. You can hit them as hard as you want. You can punish them as bad as you want. You can do whatever you fucking like because we're MAGA and we're somehow superior because, But what's even worse though are the ones that are the race traitors. The black guys that are doing it, and that latest guy, he's from Puerto Rico. The one that said, if you raise your voice, I'll erase your voice.
And not just the ones that are serving, not just the ones that are serving in ICE or whatever, and the Latino folks who are serving in ICE and doing, being deplorable towards, people who they should be protecting. But also there are just creators out there who are just like, kissing Trump's ass. And I don't understand. I'm not gonna say I understand. Like, I can't say that I understand the mindset because I really don't understand the mindset being somebody who is, white and man and cisgender or whatever. I can't fathom that, but at least I get that why the white racists support white racists. I don't understand why minorities, people who are part of disenfranchised and marginalized groups, I don't understand why they would somehow now support this idiot and these policies because they're next. They're the ones who will be next on the list. It's not like, I may have my reasons to worry because me and my family are Jewish, there's that, but I'm most likely not next. It's the other people who are next. The Hispanic folks, black folks, Filipino, people from Thailand, people from all other Koreans, all the people who have been already, dealt with ICE and their atrocities and their BS. And for some reason, these people are like, oh, it'll never happen to me. Of course it will, because you're next. And they don't realize that. They're too stupid to realize that. It has nothing to do with whether or not what skin color or ethnicity or nationality they are. It has the fact to do with they're wearing a red cap, which automatically sucks out the vast majority of your intellect that you may have had if you had any to begin with. So,
well, there was this one. They got a ICE agent there, and he said something out loud, which was rather remarkable. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
She said, you must be really proud of yourself. She said, how much training did you get? And she said, and then she listed off her thing. She says, I went to become a physician's assistant and I make $200,000 a year. And the guy came back and he says, I love this job. I would do it for free. He says, but they pay me they pay me $200,000, and all I've got is a high school diploma.
And I doubt that's even true. I mean, I'm sure for half of them, they don't even have that because Donald Trump loves the poorly educated, and the poorly educated are going to flock in droves to try and, go take out. I mean, maybe the only reason, I mean, people say, we've said here on the show that the reason they have 47 days of training is because they're just kissing Trump's ass with the number 47. But it's very well possible that they can't absorb any more than 47 days worth of information, so they can't train them anymore because their brains are too small, their heads are too tiny, they lack the intellect to be able to absorb any more information than 47 days of training, which is probably
Well,
a
considering
sad
the
state of
fitness
affairs.
requirements are from the presidential's 5th grade fitness requirement test, fifth grade requirement test, and half of these guys can't even pass that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that doesn't even speak to their mental capacity, because I mean, let's face it, they're just basically going around with hatred in their heart. Because when you ask them a question, I don't answer to you. I'm just going to throw you in a cell and lock you up and throw away the key and feed you table scraps that are 3 days old. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I said, the level of cruelty is there. I mean, they already found, what's his name, the Liam kid there, the 5-year-old, and apparently he's sick because they won't give him proper food. And this is in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
There is no excuse for this stuff. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but here, let your other caller call in. And I want to hear how he's going to try to explain this to you as to how this is all okay and it's going to somehow make America great again.
Yeah. I'm not holding my breath. A lot of times they fail to back up their words with actions. They'll type all they want, but if they know their phone number is going to pop up on my screen, I have your phone number now. Of course, this isn't my main phone number either. This is just a Google Voice number. They could easily do the same thing too. That being said, it was a good talking to you, Big Hook. We will talk to you again later. Have a great rest of your night and feel better.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right, and again, that was Big Hook calling in, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. I'm more than welcome anybody to call in, left, right, center, whatever it is you want to talk about. We more than welcome you to come in. One of the things that I did want to talk about, what that Big Hook had brought up, though, was the fact that, these people are the poorly educated that Donald Trump loved. And they've, reduced, I guess, whatever standards that they might have had to bring people in for ICE, because Donald Trump wants people who are just going to not think for themselves. And if you can't think, you're not going to be able to think for yourselves, let alone for anybody else. That being said, back during the Vietnam War, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara had the Project 100,000. Initiated in October 1966, they stopped rejecting men with low education scores, Category 4, to meet rising Vietnam War manpower needs. This policy lowered mental and physical standards, allowing more men from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to be drafted, which, A, is unethical, because if you're not intelligent enough to be able to understand what you're getting yourself into, then should you really be serving in war? And B, it just goes to show that they don't give a rat's ass about the people, because they're willing to send all of y'all into the meat grinder. But still, nowadays it's just, you're going to get to play. You're going to get to play a Call of Duty, as one of the people was caught on video saying. Oh, you can play Call of Duty. It's just like playing Call of Duty, being out there shooting at civilians. Wish we would be more like Wolfenstein, because in that game, at least you hunted Nazis, right? So again, call into the show, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 542-3268. Let's see, 78, but Trump is 47, right? Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Happy diarrhea? What? I don't know what that's about. All right, we got another call in again. Is this Chad again? It's Chad again. We're just going back and forth between Chad and Big Hook. What's going on again? You got your house a little more quiet now?
I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background. You'll just have to let me know, and I'll hop off. I'm not gonna.
At the moment, I don't.
My daughter's
So
movie time.
at the moment, I don't hear it. So, but I'll let you know if I do. So go ahead. What's up?
10-4. Yeah, not a lot. I just thought I'd give my perspective as, a person. I consider myself in the, basically center. Sometimes I'm a little left, sometimes I'm a little right. I mean, obviously it was a tragedy what happened. There, at the end of the day, there is no justification for this last gentleman, or real. I mean, I would even say for that woman as well. The way I see it is kind of I lay blame on both sides. I don't know how I really want to word this, right? Like it's wrong, the tactics that ICE is using. I'll agree with that, but it's also wrong for political officials to encourage people to do some of the things that's been encouraged to be done, right? So I'm kind of in the camp of de-escalation, and I'm kind of in the camp of, let these folks into your jails, let them into your prisons, let them get the people that don't fight them on that, because they've been fought for a long time. And like, I understand that and all those things, but like, let them in, let them get them out. And there wouldn't be all of this like craziness, right? And there are going to have to be some targeted things that happen within the community, right? And those things, if the federal government comes to it, local officials with the things to say like, hey, here's our legitimate evidence, can you kind of at least back us up a little bit, or maybe give us a little, extra information that would help, so that we don't appear to be so aggressive, and we don't have to send more people to try to protect the people that we're sending to try to do a targeted thing, right?
But
so anyway, that's kind of my 30,000-foot view.
Has it? I mean, first, I would say, is it the responsibility of law enforcement to be the ones to de-escalate, to know when to escalate and when to de-escalate? Like, citizens are probably not going to be trained in that, and even politicians, who many of whom have not been part of law enforcement. Maybe not a lot of them have been. Whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to circle back to that part as well. But isn't it the responsibility of law enforcement to know how and when to de-escalate versus when to escalate? And isn't the responsibility on ICE to basically, or any law enforcement for that matter, to be like, okay, we're going to settle down, we're going to take a step back, we're going to not make sure that we're make sure that the people aren't going to be as riled up. But also, I also would want to know, I guess that's the first part of my question, I also would want to know, what exactly has politicians said, like be it Tim Walz, or be it the mayor of Minneapolis, be it anybody else for that matter. What has a politician said that justified an action, or that would basically said, okay, here's why this person is doing this thing, and as such, then ICE comes in? Like, I don't understand why the line
I'm not
that could
saying
be drawn.
Justify.
Uh-huh.
Sure, I'm not saying that it justifies. What I'm saying is that I think both sides are using extreme types of tactics, right? Like, you got one side saying, hey, don't assist, don't help them at all, and then you got the other side saying, go in and do as much as you possibly can to, and so I think that there's just not communication. I think people aren't talking. I think people are too partisan to give the appearance of that we're going to work together to lessen the extreme on either side. I see it as it's tragedy, right? I'm not trying to demean what has happened, but from a 30,000-foot view, both sides could do better to work with each other to ensure that these things don't escalate into these types of situations. I'm not saying, it's anybody's fault necessarily, right? I think that there's a lot of fault that can be handed to go around, and that we could have done better as a society, as a group of people, as human beings, as Democrats, Republicans, Independents. We could have done better to try to tackle these problems before it escalated into tragedy.
Right. But you would agree with me. You would agree with me, though, that 47 days is not enough training for somebody to be in law enforcement. Would you agree?
Sure, and I think that they're also being placed into a position where they shouldn't be. It harkens back to the overarching issue, in my opinion, which is that there was no kind of working together. There was no coordination. So in the way it should work, you would send out your law enforcement to de-escalate the situation within the community, because, people are worried about what's going on with, ICE showing up versus them getting zero help and then having to send in inexperienced reinforcements to provide support.
Right, but to me, it's very reckless on the part of the administration to be sending these people into these areas, into these communities, and without having them the proper education,
Yeah,
proper
I don't
training.
disagree.
Right.
But what's the other option? It would be to completely pull back in extreme situations like this. That's just not going to happen.
Well,
They're
you
not
could
going to
put,
pull back.
you could put border patrol, on the border. We could do that. We could
Yeah,
have
I agree with that.
we could have more investigatory work done to actually see and find the people who are the so-called the worst of the worst, the bad hombres, the ones who Trump said that he would be going after, and we could have limited taking the steps. But again, when ICE and Border Patrol or whoever, whoever's doing whatever particular action, at this point, we're pretty much using the terms ICE and Border Patrol as the same thing, even though they're not, simply because of the fact that they've been working in concert together, especially during this administration, to do whatever they're doing. Like, when you have the situation of, somebody getting pulled out of line, waiting to be naturalized, who are doing things the right way, and when you have situations like the 100+ Filipino cruise ship workers who are all working here legally, when you have people who got a humanitarian parole, who had that parole revoked, that's going to cause, those actions are going to cause anger amongst the populace, and this is why people are protesting. You wouldn't have all of these protests.
I don't disagree.
Right. The reason we have these protests, the reason people are marching in the streets is because they're spreading such a wide net to try and catch, the people who they're claiming to want to catch. Even if you want to take their actions at face value, which I don't, but if you want to take their actions at face value, they're casting such a wide net that it makes it so that there's no way now that the individuals in the communities are going to trust anything that this administration is saying or doing, because they've proven themselves to be people who are willing to not...
Let me ask this.
Mm-hmm.
If there wasn't as much pushback to the initial trying to get in and do what they were trying to do, do you agree that reinforcements were called in after there was escalation, or was the entire force sent all at once?
I think everything that has been done is unnecessary escalation, because of the fact that there's so many.
I know what.
Yeah, because there's so many people who shouldn't have been targeted, who shouldn't have been detained, who shouldn't have been deported, because they're not listening to judicial orders. They're not listening to the people in and of itself who are saying, look, these are not the people that we're afraid of. We're not afraid of somebody who's working in a field picking crops. We're not afraid of people who are, washing dishes in some restaurant getting paid a cash wage or whatever, under the table. Those are not the people that we're concerned about. We're concerned about the people like the murderer of Laken Riley. But as of right now, the person who murdered Laken Riley is just now being used as, to me, they're almost desecrating her memory in trying to continually justify their actions because, what happened to Laken Riley? No. What happened to Laken Riley is a travesty.
In all fairness, do you know how many people have been raped and murdered this week alone from illegal immigrants? Do you know that number?
I do not know that number off the top of my head. No.
Right.
But again, if the administration
it's more than the people that have been murdered in the streets because of it's tragedy. I'm not trying to justify any of it. It's all bad, but at the same time, different sides focus on different things, right? Like my overarching point is I hope that everybody can find a way to work together to make the goals that what some of us out here did vote for, which was more targeted and less what we're seeing, that there can be some kind of like middle ground reached, and that we don't escalate one side or the other so far that it forces the other side to feel like they're boxed into a corner. Just like I'm sure the people in Minneapolis feel boxed in a corner. And then you got, I disagree with a lot of what Trump does or whatever, but, we all know what happens. You box him into a corner, he doubles down, right? So.
Right, but the problem is this, is that during the first term, like, Donald Trump did the same thing in the first term, which is why I have huge problems with, Anna Kasparian and saying, I didn't want to call Trump a fascist because he wasn't doing fascist things, yada, yada, yada. But during the first term, he was going after the low-hanging fruit. He wasn't going after the worst of the worst. He was targeting the people who were family of dreamers or or dreamers themselves, or he was going after people who were not a threat because, again, they were the easier people to go after. So he could show the optics of it, like, oh, look at all these people I'm nabbing, look at all these people I'm gathering up to deport. You know, he wanted to be able to put on a show, and he didn't want to have to put on the work to go after, again, those bad hombres, the worst of the worst, the actual rapists and murderers that, you know, may have come across the border. I'm sure some of them were. You know, Trump wanted to say some of them are good people. I'm sure some of the people who have crossed the border are absolutely rapists and murderers, and by all means go after them. But he's not going after those people. That's more work. He's going after the low-hanging fruit. So I don't understand why anybody who paid attention to the first term of Trump would understand. I don't understand why they would think that magically in the second term it would be any different. That he would now magically start going after the people who are the worst of the worst, the bad hombres, etc. So why would you think it would be any different, or did you not see that in the first term?
So I would say to that, like, I would just wonder what the president's comments were about this most recent situation. What did he have to say about all of this that was going on with this gentleman that was
with Alex Preddy?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, back on my Facebook page, I shared a false image, and I acknowledged that it was false. It seemed true enough because Donald Trump said you can't go into these areas, be armed, and only criminals do that or whatever. And then it kind of came out, oh, you know, despite the fact that several of the people that I trust, you know, typically to share things that are trustworthy, turned out that they shared this thing because it just seemed to be true. And then Trump comes on and gets interviewed 2 days later and says, oh, well, he shouldn't have been there with a gun anyway, so basically proving the meme right. The person who made the fake meme turned out to be vindicated in creating the satire, because the satire in reality turned out to be 100% true. So he again, it's frustrating because me, you know, I'm somebody, when it comes to like guns and everything like that, I'm somebody who says, you know, look, there should be, you know, tighter controls on making sure that there's no loopholes for background checks or whatever, but I don't want to stop law-abiding citizens from owning guns. They do say if you can move far enough to the left, you get your guns back, but the sheer hypocrisy on the right for saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have brought a loaded gun to any sort of protest or whatever. Why?
Yeah, I disagree with that. I find that just as amusing as I find watching some of these folks talking about backing up, you know, some of the Democratic folks. You know, they would have a different opinion 6 months ago. I don't, well, funny's not the right word. I find it hypocritical on both sides. But I mean, you are correct. But I also watch a lot of Democrats now say that, you know, when somebody gets gunned down in a gun, this isn't, you know, how come we're not talking about gun violence in this situation? You know what I mean? So, and then I would also say, just to button this up, because my wife just got home from work, spent a little time with her, back to that cruise ship thing that you were saying. So I looked into that a little bit, and what they had found was that X amount of people were in possession of child pornography. And supposedly. I don't know if that number was 20 or 25. I can't remember. Supposedly, whatever the case is. The way I view those types of things is, yes, was it wrong to send all 100 people? More than likely, but I'm okay if they couldn't have actually tracked down an exact whatever was going on with it, kind of like one bad apple, sort of all bad apple. And I know that it's not the most, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if there was a chance that was being perpetuated amongst that group and there was evidence of that found, I can see a little bit of justification there, you know, 30% or whatever the case is. But in my opinion, I don't see that as a horrible thing. Now, if it was 100 people and there was nothing going on, sure, I'm on your side 100%. But if there's, you know, was it 30 people that was involved in that, 40, if you didn't find the proof on every one of them, like how many were involved, like, so that's kind of where I land on that one as a, you know, overarching view.
I want to say that it was about, like, of the people in Norfolk, it was about 20 out of Norfolk, and then outside of Norfolk, that's how you got up to 100. But they didn't say that all 20 of them had child pornography on their phones. But again,
right.
if there's somebody who is accused, who's legally in this country because they had legal work visas to work in this country, if somebody's legally in this country and they are accused of facilitating the transmission of child pornography or whatever, then what should they do? They should arrest them. They should prosecute them, and then after the trial is over, they're found to have been guilty of being, you know, of committing these acts. Then great, absolutely deport them, ban them forever.
I don't disagree.
Right, but
I
just the
context
accusation
just matters sometimes as well. You know what I mean? Like,
but why would I trust? Why would I trust it? If why would I trust this administration?
No, I understand.
On
I
that?
understand.
If they should prove their case in court, and if they can prove the case in court, then absolutely punish those. And if you would have investigated and proved the case in court, you could have gone after like the source of that illicit material,
Sure.
the source of that material, and then maybe nipped it in the bud from the higher levels. But as people have said,
Well,
they believe this.
measure,
They believe this administration
measure
is.
twice, cut once don't happen all the time with a lot of these folks. And
Well,
that's a downside of it. And I ain't trying to run from this. I literally, my wife just got home and stuff. I'm going to spend some time with her. It was really nice talking with you. I'll let
right.
some other people call in, but
Well, go give Mrs. Chad a hug from Liberal Dan, and we'll talk to you later.
Right.
All right.
All right.
Have a good one, man.
All right.
Bye.
See you.
That's Chad calling in second time. We have two Chad calls, two Big Hook calls. Who's going to be the next caller to 562 LibDan1, 562 LibDan1, 562 542 3261? Call in, left, right, set, whatever you want, whatever your pleasure. Call in. Let us know what you have to say. If you have anything to respond to Chad, to Big Hook, to me, or anybody else. Jolie's like, boo. Fair enough, Jolie, but Chad does support the show, and I appreciate. I mean, he comments on stuff, he super chats and everything. That he made me laugh today, which I needed. So there you go. And look, if I had only Chad calling in to the show, if I was going to have conservative callers call in, at least Chad can be somewhat reasonable, even if we disagree with some of the things that he says, right? Or Broomer. I kind of disagree with the idea that he's center. I mean, again, center in politics means a lot depending on where you are. Look, there are people who are MAGA who call Joe Biden a socialist. Joe Biden is not a socialist in any stretch of the imagination. He's nowhere even close to being a socialist, but they're so far to the right that everybody looks like a socialist to them, because it's like the difference between somebody being in Los Angeles and someone being in New York City, but they're on Mars. So they can't really discern the difference between New York and Los Angeles because they're that far away that they can't see how those two are mainly different or whatever. Christine, I have a bruise on the back of my right hand similar to Trump's. I shook hands with a nurse who tried to start an IV. Lovely. Let's see. Chad says, I would currently say I'm center right, but I also voted Obama twice, so not sure what that means. I mean, people adjust, shift. I mean, 2004 me was definitely more conservative than 2026 me. I mean, so when I ran for Congress in 2004, I supported like the whole idea of a national sales tax. I thought that was a more fair way to tax things, as long as you didn't tax the necessities in life, which was different than the libertarian plan for the national sales tax, which would have taxed everything and then would have given everybody a prebate to offset the necessities that one might bring. But again, what necessities of one person might be different from the necessities of another person, and as such, it's kind of hard to do that, which is what I would say, don't do that at all. I have since moved away from that, and I believe that not only do we need a more progressive tax code, we also need UBI and other stuff like that. So I have moved to the left more and more and more as I've aged. Other people say, they get more conservative as they go older. I'm glad that never happened with my grandparents, at least the ones that matter, simply because of the fact that they never moved to the right, and they always fought against the right until they passed away. Anyway, welcome back, Big Hook. Third time's the charm, right?
Yeah, it is. There were a number of issues that Chad didn't address. Number one, they are racially profiling. That was against the law.
Yes.
You are not supposed to be able to racially profile. Number two, it's kidnap and deport, and without due process before a judge. It's interstate transfer to a red state, which should be against the law. You shouldn't be able to take people that you abduct from one state and bring them to a red state to go before a hanging judge in a red state.
Mm-hmm.
Using kids. You tell me, aren't kids supposed to have special protections?
Supposed to.
So like this both sides stuff doesn't wash. And no matter how you look at it, it's not it's not cool. Number three, which I was going to bring up, is after the Renee Good killing, they tripled their presence in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. They didn't de-escalate. They decided to triple down on it because because of the protests became intense because they killed a woman and it was all caught on camera.
Right.
You know, and then they doubled down on protecting the officer when it was quite clear that nothing happened to him and he shot her in the head.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm sorry. There is no excuse for this. You know, I mean, and this is the thing. If they want to deport people, they should. This was the way it used to operate. You had to have a warrant signed by a judge with a list of the crimes that you committed.
Right.
You know, and so there was a process by which the justification for deportation could be made. None of that is now currently available. It's just grab them off the street, throw them in jail, starve them to death, and then, torture them, make them sign a paper that says, I voluntarily self-deport to make this beating and starvation end, and then they're sent out of the country. I'm sorry. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. So this both sides bullshit doesn't wash. I'm sorry. It does not wash. Remember when I said before, I said, have you no decency? This is what I mean.
Right.
This is what I mean, because if you can somehow go, oh, well, there's got to be a reason why they're being cruel assholes and beating the shit out of and killing people right, left, and center. Yeah, there's got to be a reason for it, huh? Because they look and they talk like me, and they're racist assholes just like me, and because we don't get a fair shake in life because they work twice as hard as us, and they take the jobs that we don't want to work and that we're not willing to work, and then they supplement our income as well as our taxes as well as everything else, and it's not fair.
Pretty much.
You know, it's the
you do a very good
stupidest
imitation
argument.
of them.
It's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. You know.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing. That's what it is. It's stupid on steroids. It is. It is stupid on steroids because they will justify shit that you cannot justify. You know, if you're a critical thinker, you see through this horse shit right from the beginning and you call it out for what it is. And that's the thing. If you can't do that, then you're not a critical thinker, and you shouldn't be in any leadership role whatsoever. And that's just it. You know?
Well, there's a whole ton of
Anyway,
people right now who
stuff
shouldn't
makes
be in
my
any
blood-
sort of leadership position. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And it should make your blood boil. It should make everybody's blood boil because the race to the bottom of intelligence in this country is now, we're now dealing with lives being lost because of sheer stupidity. So
anyway, I just thought I had to rebut that because here's the thing. Chad brings up these little side issues where he curts around, where he pretends to nibble at the edges of the argument, but he never ever actually addresses the argument. You know, he plays the whataboutism, the talk over an argument, or the I should look at it at both sides. It's like an act of cruelty doesn't need to be looked at both sides. What has to happen? You can say, oh yeah, well, his parents beat him as a kid, therefore he turned out to be a bad apple. Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's why I made it a point.
Mean that he should be allowed to beat the crap out of other people.
Right. Well, that's why I made it a point to basically ask the question of, whose responsibility is it to de-escalate? Is it the responsibility of, politicians who might say things that, that I guess people are like, bovine excrement found, distasteful or whatever, or is it the responsibility of law enforcement who should be trained in de-escalation matters? And I mean, to Chad's credit, he did say it should be on law enforcement to de-escalate, and that's fine. I mean, yeah, I get annoyed at the whataboutisms as well. I mean, if you saw my face when he made a whataboutism comment, I was just kind of like, ugh. We're not gonna buy the whataboutisms, because again, the responsibility on this administration is on the administration to A, be truthful with us, be open and transparent. The responsibility should be on this administration to make sure that people are properly trained, make sure that the people know how to escalate and de-escalate as appropriate, and focus on de-escalation and not escalation. The administration needs to make sure that when things do come out that and wrongs do happen by the people who are acting in your name, in the name of the Trump administration, that they need to make sure that those people are punished instead of being protected. And initially it was absolutely they were just going to protect without any punishment. Now maybe somebody listens to Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left. That's right, because at least after I said it on my show, they actually finally put the 2 people on administrative leave, paid administrative leave. But it's fine. I don't have a problem with it being paid leave as they would go through, but still that would also require that they do some investigation and be open to the idea that, if they committed a crime, they should be punished. But no, you have JD Vance saying bullshit like, they have absolute immunity, which is false, and then he denies that he said that, even though he did say it, because again, they are gaslighters. That's why they like fracking so much, because they need all the natural gas they can to gaslight us or whatever.
Yeah, but that's just it. They will always have, they always go back to the same old excuses. Oh, well, but that's my other point, which is that the problem is that there are way too many bad apples within law enforcement as it is. I mean, they go, oh, well, we have to, the Minneapolis police have completely eroded what was left of their trust. Mm-hmm. They really did, because they stood between the protesters and ICE, and then said, oh, we're protecting you. Protecting who? The people you need to protect are the people that ICE are going after.
Right.
I'm sorry. You don't go, oh, to serve and protect those who we think should be served and protected, as opposed to everyone.
So
you don't swear an oath to only serve and protect those who you think deserve it. Right. You do it for everyone. And that's the thing. That's what annoys me is that these people are breaking their oath. It doesn't mean anything anymore. They only serve Trump and protect themselves. That's at this point. That's all that's all federal law enforcement is doing. Tree Antichrist over on Twitch wants to know if you like Chuck Schumer. I don't know why, but I'm sure there's a conservative point to be made. But do you like Chuck Schumer, Big Hook? I don't know why that has to do with the price of tea in China, but still, inquiring minds want to know. I've been critical of Chucky Schumer for a bunch. Here's the problem. He goes in there with he wants to do his strongly worded letters, mm-hmm. as well as his other stuff, but the problem is like he literally goes into a gunfight with a plastic butter knife. Thinking that he's gonna somehow has this charm and that he can take these assholes at their word when they have never lived up to their word, not once. Nope. This bipartisan horse shit that they think somehow exists in a land far, far away is the greatest naivety out there, and that's what it boils down to. Yep. He's not capable of bringing the fight and doing what's necessary, and that's the problem. Until all the Republicans are completely knocked out of the Senate as well as the Congress, and you've got a majority where you can start enforcing accountability and make these people who thought that they were above the law because they're in law, you're going to have this problem. And this play nice with the kiddies, bullshit that Schumer does is annoying. And there's a reason why he knows that AOC should have his seat, because she actually stands for something. Whereas he goes, oh, well, I come from Jewish heritage and my family told me about all these atrocities that were committed against everyone, and he basically is taking, he's basically riding on the coattails of his ancestry.
Yeah.
You know, and then claiming that he's a good guy when his actions don't come forward to prove that he is.
Tree Antichrist goes into which don't have a conservative point to make. I'm about as far left as one can get. I think the caller knocked the question out of the park. So there you go. We all agree. The goddess Kimchi goes in YouTube chat. He is a dino in both senses. Correct. And Christine Wonder Mom says Schumer needs to pass the torch to someone with a spine. AOC is 36 years old. She is absolutely capable and of age to be not just she could be president too, but she could also be the senator from New York. I would much rather see AOC be the senator than old Chucky Schumer. But yeah, he definitely is amongst the Democrats in the Senate that lack the spine. I think when we have the possibility to do so, we always need to be moving safe Democratic seats more and more to the left, more and more progressive, more and more fighting for the people, and hopefully more and more younger, so that, you know, they could sit there and they could have the energy to fight against these Republican tyrants, like AOC is willing to do, like your Jasmine Crockett's are willing to do. But, you know, Chucky Schumer just doesn't seem to be have the fight in him anymore.
Yeah, but if he wants to write a book, he should write a book on telling him how to do things legislatively, so that way they can fix the problems that exist within the Senate. The biggest problem that they have is the filibuster, because as a result, everything gets shut down. Nothing gets passed or anything, and it works both ways. So it's basically an excuse to sit in the halls of power and do absolutely nothing, because you can constantly go, well, they filibustered it. And then when it's the other way around, oh, the Dems filibustered it. And it's like, yeah, but the Dems did it because you were going to pass something horrible, awful, right, you know. And they go, and they stopped us because we were going to do something awful, and they filibustered it. And then when it's the other way around, and the Dems want to pass health care reform, or they want to pass insurance reform, or they want to, you know, fund things like cancer research, as well as reform the pharmaceutical regulations, as well as the drug makers, and you know, and negotiate and that sort of stuff. The Republicans are like, oh, no, they're our big cash cow. We have to filibuster it because they won't give us money anymore if we go and actually make them do what's in the best interest of the people, even though that's what I signed up for. Right. You know, I mean, and that's just it. They are dishonest. They're disingenuous. They don't work. They took a job that they refuse to do. Yep. And that's what's disgusting, because this, oh, we're both the same. No, we're not the same. There is a very distinct difference between the two parties. Yes, we have our problems with some of the corporate Democrats, the ones that have gotten a taste for the money that corporatism has offered them and whatnot. But that's the problem. Until you federally finance all elections and make it so that way the lobbying and all the rest of the stuff through Citizens United is gone, you are going to constantly have problems with this whole thing, you know. But, you know, I can't fix your problems. Only you guys can fix your problems. I live up here in Canada for that very same reason, because I like living in a country that has functional health care, a functional government, a functional society with functional environmental regulations that's, you know, working towards the future, that's doing things that are positive. And, you know, and let's face it, the U.S., we don't need the U.S. The U.S. needs Canada. You need our oil, you need our gas, you need our forestry products, you need our aluminum, you need, you know, all the things that we went and invested in and overbuilt, that you then take the surplus off of us for.
Right.
You know, that's what it is. And that's just it, you know. I feel sorry for you guys, because that's the thing. You guys haven't invested in anything outside of certain things, and then you only marginally invest in it, and then you go and you pull the old privatized bullshit where you go and you give all the stuff that's out there to the tech bros, Elon Musk and SpaceX and all that kind of crap. There was nothing wrong with NASA.
Right.
It worked fine.
Yep.
There were safeguards. There were things that worked much better there than with SpaceX. Oh, but it's cheaper. How is it cheaper? He's blown up 10 rockets. He's only put one in space in the last year and a half. You tell me how that's more efficient.
But it's not. Of course, let's see, one of the things from Politico today was that the Democrats and the Trump administration are close to a deal, and of course, who's behind the deal to allow for the funding of the federal government, including at least 2 weeks of funding for ICE, DHS, or whatever, is, of course, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's, now granted, it's 2 weeks of funding versus months of funding for everything else, but still, I still have I have no reason to believe that Chuck Schumer will be at all effective in putting a stop to the shenanigans and the bullshit coming from.
It's not even a question. But here's the thing: it's not even a question of him being able to stop them, because that's the thing. They can't stop Trump. He doesn't obey the law. He breaks the law no matter what. So getting him to agree on paper that he's going to stop doing shit doesn't mean that he will stop. And that's just it. I mean, and every week it's another distraction. Oh, we're going to bomb Iran. Oh, we're going to go and invade Venezuela. Oh, we're going to go and bomb, drug boats. Oh, we're going to invade Canada. Oh, we're going to, invade Mexico. Oh, we're going to, it's just a never-ending shit show of bullshit. Look over here, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel.
Randy Couch in the YouTube chat goes, Canadians love Trump with a big red heart. I'm like, yeah, that's not true whatsoever. There may be some who do, but the vast majority don't, and do not want to be the 51st state, not one bit. So,
yeah. Anyway, I've probably taken up way too much time, but I could not let that go, because that's the thing. Like I said, if you want to nibble around the issues, and never ever address anything, and then play the, shucks, it's both sides, it's
right.
They're both complete fuck ups, I mean, my life has only gotten better because I've figured out how to cheat the system just well enough that I can keep my head above water. I mean, that's a sad statement, because that means that you don't understand how government works and how to fix government. And that's just it. Because as Texas Paul was saying, the problem is that we're on the verge of going the cowboy way with cowboy justice. Right. Because the government won't do anything or fix the problem, then the citizenry is going to take arms and fix it themselves. And that's where that's the thing. And at that point, it's going to be all out civil war,
Yep.
And that's what Trump wants. Trump thrives in chaos, and then he will call in the military and
use the Insurrection Act,
sort it out.
That sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
But anyway,
well, let me go deal with this person in the chat, and I will talk to you later. All right, man. All right. Bye. All right, big hook, everyone. So we got, again, we're back on the phone, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. Remember, if somebody's on the phone, please don't call. Wait for them to hang up, and then you can call in at that point. Please keep it clean, civil, etc. Don't have to get all, you don't have to, not use any wordy dirge, so to speak, but, don't be racist, don't be bigot, etc. And again, if pulling in the Tommy... my dude rule, if somebody super chats $30 in the chat, I will absolutely hang up on the person that calls in. Let's see. Randy, resisting arrest. Who was resisting arrest, Randy? Who was resisting arrest? Nobody was resisting arrest. Renee Nicole Good was actually told by one of the officers to drive away, and she complied with that officer. The other one just happened to, not be able to slowly move out of the way, I guess, of a very slowly moving vehicle, and claimed that he was hit, even though the camera angle that shows that there was no hitting going on. Even the long distance angle disproves the whole lie that he, went to the hospital, had internal bleeding, or whatever bullshit you want to believe this administration says about that, because it's bullshit. There was nothing like that went on whatsoever. That he didn't go to the hospital for internal bleeding. If he would have gone to the hospital for internal bleeding, it would have been absolutely, you would have seen him walking out of the hospital. You would have seen him being pushed in a wheelchair. He had no problem walking to the site of Renee Good's crashed car and walking back. He wasn't limping. There was no problem whatsoever. And of course, Alex Preddy did nothing wrong. He absolutely did not push back against the cops. He did not resist arrest. He didn't even draw his weapon that he had brought for self-defense. He didn't even draw that against law enforcement. But yet, and I even hesitate and flinch to call it law enforcement, because they're not enforcing the law; they're breaking the law. So, if I call in, can I use sentence enhancers? Sure, you can use sentence enhancers. All right, here we go. Another caller. Justin. We got Justin on the line. Justin, what's going on? How are you tonight?
Good. How you doing?
I am hanging in there. What's going on? What you calling in for? What you want to talk about?
So I seen you guys were talking about the recent ICE shootings. I mildly disagree with some of the things you're saying.
Okay.
First and foremost, I want to say that in both circumstances, the shooting is sad, and I'm not happy that it happened, and it should not have happened. I think that the ICE agents and Border Patrol with Alex made definite procedural mistakes and could have potentially avoided this outcome had they acted better. However,
I agree with that, but however is a fancy but, and they say that everything before but is not necessarily guaranteed to be truthful.
That's a common phrase.
Right. So, but go ahead. We will go ahead and say it.
But I do think that both of the victims of the shooting in this circumstance, both Renee Good and Alex Preddy, did also make mistakes. Did these mistakes warrant them losing their lives? No. But I think they also acted, I don't know what word to use because I want to sound derogatory, but they didn't make the right choices that they should have, in my opinion.
Okay, I make bad choices. We all make bad choices, and yeah, and again, you wouldn't say that bad choices justify using deadly force, right?
Absolutely not.
Right.
The thing with shootings in a lot of cases is the moment-to-moment basis thing, and unfortunately, it can lead to officers believing something in the moment that people with hindsight can see was probably not likely to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, for example, if I'm standing in front of a car and, with the Renee Goods example, and they start to drive, right, even though it's from a resting position going to move, it's only, going to be at 2-3 miles an hour at first. That's still a 2,000 to 3,000 pound metal object that could very easily crush, maim, or kill you. Mm-hmm. So I can understand the officer feeling fear in that moment.
Even though the steering wheel was clearly being moved to the right, and even though the direction the car was moving was not directly at him, you still think that fear was potentially justified in that case?
And I'll say I agree with you that when looking at the footage, it does appear to show that she was trying to drive away from the situation, not into the officer. However, I'm not the officer, right? And so him being, adrenaline pumping, everyone's yelling and screaming, all this is going on, and then that happens, he may not have noticed what we, with the benefit of hindsight, have noticed.
Right. Well, when she was sitting in the car, blocking a lane of traffic, and the shooter pulled around and passed her on the right and stopped his vehicle that way, and then other vehicles passed on the left, so clearly she wasn't stopping anybody from driving down the road, even though she was in a particular lane of traffic. Does ICE have the authority to enforce traffic laws?
They do not have the authority to enforce traffic laws. However, they do have the authority I forget exactly which statute it is in U.S. Code, forgive me, but there's a statute in U.S. Code that enables ICE and Border Patrol officers to apprehend somebody who is impeding their duties.
Right, but was that really impeding their duties if they could drive around her?
That is debatable. I wouldn't know. I don't think the footage shows clear enough footage based on where the ICE officer's car is and where Renee's car is and the surrounding vehicles. It's hard to judge just from the footage alone whether or not she's obstructing them, you know, in a significant manner. So I think that would be something that would need to be debated in the court. I don't have a definitive answer on that.
Do you think that Minnesota should be prohibited from investigating the state-based crimes that would be committed? Because, you know, like, for example, let's look at the person who Derek Chauvin case with George Floyd. Derek Chauvin had you know, he committed a crime via the state, and then the federal government also charged him with the violation of George Floyd's civil rights. Do you think that the federal government should be stepping in and preventing the state of Minnesota from arresting and trying people for federal officers who commit crimes in their state when they violate state laws?
I think that Minnesota should absolutely conduct an investigation. However, I don't think there's any concrete 100% correct answer on how to handle this, because I think both the local government in Minnesota and the federal government are heavily biased on opposite poles. So I think either one of them is going to come out with a biased result.
But still, the federal government should not be preventing the state of Minnesota from investigating and determining whether or not to bring charges on any particular crime done by any of the federal agents. Would you agree with that statement?
No, they should not be blocking it. I think they should both conduct their own investigations and then hash it out somewhere after they can come to their own conclusions.
And should the state government be able to subpoena the federal government to be able to make sure that, you know, the state can actually have all the information available, so to convene a grand jury, for example, and get an indictment brought? I mean, a lot of times I think that, except when the law specifically requires it, I think a lot of times district attorneys take the weak way out in wanting to go for a grand jury instead of having the balls to just do it themselves. That being said, if there's a case where the law requires a grand jury to be convened instead of just, you know, it's a possibility of what could be done, to me, you know, if, in order to have that grand jury, you can't, the federal government shouldn't be allowed to prevent the state from gathering evidence and present that sort of data to be able to go into the grand jury and say, this is why we're bringing this suit. Do we have should there be an indictment or not, and let the grand jury decide if that's the case. And that's more likely than more likely potentially to make it at least a little less biased, even though, as they say, prosecutors should be able to indict a ham sandwich, which is kind of silly, but, you know, shouldn't be the case. There should be some sort of requirement above and beyond just, you know, this is a ham sandwich, it's not kosher, let's indict it to whatever. But anyway, so in the case of, like, you know, there are a lot of conservatives out there, and I'm not trying to paint all conservatives with the same exact brush. I mean, you seem like, you know, your willingness, you know, you'd probably disagree with those conservatives who are justifying, you know, the actions that were taken against Alex Preddy because, you know, 10 days ago he kicked in a taillight, right? I mean, you would agree with me that one particular incident has nothing to do with, you know, whether or not deadly force should have been used in the case of Alex Preddy, right?
Yeah, I think the past action has absolutely no bearing on the shooting itself. I think the shooting itself, the only thing that matters is the moment-to-moment action in that shooting. I think the most you could do with that previous video is show intent to fuck with ICE, which I think you knew that already anyway, right?
I mean, intent to, you know, cause. I don't know what caused him to want to kick the taillight. I mean, you know, I've had a car try and hit me or whatever, and I was very much tempted to go kick the taillight as well. Simply because of the fact that, but, you know, I didn't, but I was very tempted to do so. I was tempted in doing so or whatever. But I mean, yeah, there's those past incidents shouldn't come into play at all as to whether or not, whatever. Is this your first time watching the program or listening to the program or whatever?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you for listening. We do welcome people from all sides to have these sort of discussions, and so far we're starting off okay. I think we are.
I think so.
a lot of times that, something that's been used in discussing that the cop shouted, or the officer shouted, "Gun, gun, gun," and then grabbed the gun, and then after the gun was obtained and taken off of Alex Pretty's person, that's when the shooting had started. Now, on the show previously,
I think this is one we're going to disagree on.
Okay, well, I don't know. There's times where I've talked to people who are in law enforcement, but locally and in other states, as part of the show or just in my private life, where I've said, do police officers say things and shout things not because they're truthful, but because it helps them get away potentially with not having to be held responsible for any crimes committed because of the way that they're trained. So, for example, there was a case in New Jersey where you had an individual who was there was a struggle going on in the front seat of a vehicle, and the cop actually went into the person's vehicle, whatever, to kind of go after him, and he's shouting, "Stop grabbing for my gun! Stop grabbing for my gun!" et cetera, et cetera. And the guy was going to be have charges pressed against him for trying to grab a policeman's gun, until the dash cam footage from a different car pulled up and showed, there was no attempts by this individual at all to be grabbing for the gun. The same thing could be held, I think, for Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge. The cop there was saying, "Stop grabbing from a gun." A lot of times you'll see people shouting, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." And I've been told by several people in law enforcement who I know and I trust that a lot of the times people will scream things out that aren't necessarily true, just for the benefit of the cameras that are out there, to basically say, okay, give juries enough doubt so that they can't convict. Now, in this case, it was a truthful statement, in fact, that he had a gun, but was there a reason to shout out "gun, gun, gun" when you already had possession of the gun, when you're already disarming the individual from the weapon? And did shouting "gun, gun, gun" needlessly escalate the situation even more than it was needlessly escalated? Because we'll get to needless escalation in a second, but what about that? Do you think it was appropriate to shout "gun, gun, gun" when they already had the gun?
So I'll start off by saying I 100% believe that happens in law enforcement. It's like your little sibling shouting to stop touching me when you're not touching them because mom's in the other room, right? It's the same kind of tactic there. So I get that. I believe that happens. I'm sure it's happened. With that being said, it's possible that that's what they did. I think it's going to be impossible to prove that. I think it's also equally likely that, these are guys that you work with every day, 5 days a week, 40 hours, sometimes 60, depending on, overtime and whatnot. And so you're very close with these guys. It's a dangerous job, right? And so you're fighting with a guy, and, there's pepper spray, so everyone's got shit in their eyes. And then, somebody notices a gun, or we'll talk from the guy who's yelling guns perspective. If he sees this gun, I don't want my friends to get shot and killed, and if I see this and don't say something and they do get shot, then I might feel somewhat responsible. So that's possible. I would find that to be the more likely explanation. Now, based on the timing of everything, it is tough. It all happens really fast. I do know that the video shows him being disarmed prior to the shooting, which is a big hang-up for a lot of people, and I understand why. I think that there's explanations that could be reasonable. It's just not evident given the video that we have. And I'm not saying this for sure happened. I also believe it's possible that this was a bad shoot. I don't jump to that immediately, but I am willing to believe that given proper evidence. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here.
No, I mean, look, I don't think anybody in this country, regardless of what we see, I mean, when we see it with her, I mean, in my eyes, I don't believe it was a good shoot. That's what I believe, and I've never been in law enforcement. I did go attend classes that some law enforcement agency locally gave that would show people, because I wanted to know, because it was during one of my first times running for office, and I never won, but one of my first times running for office, I was like, well, I think it would be important for me. I see this Citizens Police Academy going on, and not like the movies, but I see this thing where basically you get to learn about all the things, like you get to go on, get to ride along with an officer, you got to speak with the officers who worked at a drug unit and kind of hear about what they do, you get to hear about You get to go into the simulator that they use, and they have a timing thing where you basically get to hold a gun, and it shoots like these blanks that register with the screen and the technology. And even back then, in like the early 2000s, it was still pretty good tech for the time. You know. And so you get to see the situations that a police officer might be put into, whether or not they should take where use of deadly force was proper or not. And I mean, not to brag, maybe I'm bragging a little bit, but I nailed it every time. Like, I mean, I was like less than a second under when it was called, when it was justified. I used it, so I pulled it exactly at the right time and not before, and not after. So I guess I was good on that timing thing. Maybe they trained me well enough, and that was only a couple of days. But like, there's, you know, like, but like the force escalation techniques aren't just like, do you use deadly force? Do you not use deadly force? What levels of force do you use? How do you manage to go about de-escalating things? And to me, like, you know, one of the things that I felt was most damning of the video with Alex Preddy is even before the pepper spray was used, before whatever, you know, the orange stuff that gets sprayed in the faces, whatever, even before that, you just had one guy just pushing him. And, you know, was there something happened before that required the pushing? Maybe, but this is why all law enforcement need to be wearing body cameras, not just to protect the people around them, but to protect themselves in case there is something that goes down. And this way you could say, hey, here's the situation that happened. This is what caused this officer to push Alex Preddy, and this is what caused them to do actions X, Y, or Z. But in reality, we're not seeing that. That's not going on, and there needs to be a call. And like, again, you know, you seem to suggest, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to suggest that that there should be an investigation into whether or not this is a bad shooting, and if it really was, and if it was shown that the people were, you know, who shot incorrectly or whatever, that there should be some punishment that comes with that, including but not limited to the officers in charge, and including the people who are responsible for putting these untrained or poorly trained officers in the field, and even the people who, you know, are advocating for all these things that are going on, like, you know, your Christy Nome and your Bovino, or as I've said, bovine excrement, in that, you know, trying to say that he's, you know, that he was there to massacre cops. Well, there's no evidence of that, so why would you say that without any evidence? I don't think that either. Right, exactly. So all that's doing is inflaming things even more. It's making the people who implicitly trust this administration, it's making them become more violent. It's causing them to want to support more bad actions, perhaps doing things like going after Representative Omar at that one at her town hall on Tuesday. You know, there's a responsibility on the government itself to make sure that their law enforcement are properly trained. It's the responsibility of the people in charge to make sure that they're properly deployed, and to make sure that they have, you know, good orders and not just doing things like. And that's the frustrating. That's why we don't have trust right now in this country. Even if you just want to look at it as, take the administration as a blank slate. Let's say you came into this administration with no feelings about Donald Trump whatsoever. I would tend to think that if you come into this administration, you're willing to look at it with a clean slate, with an open mind. There was no past to look at. There was no former administration. You come in, and then you start seeing the administration trying to gaslight us, and you're like, well, why would we believe anything else, right?
Well, I'll do you one better than that. I voted for Trump in 2020, and I was a vehement Trump supporter. You know, I defended him online and everything like that. And I watched the election like it was the Super Bowl, right? And I was so excited and so happy when he won. And it has taken 1 year to erode all of that love for Trump into near, I don't want to say hatred, but disdain, I think is a more proper word. I'm by no means, quote unquote, in the MAGA cult or anything like that. I did vote for Trump, and I still believe I made the correct decision. Let me get this straight. Trump is by no means an angel or even really a good person in my book. I think his policies, although implemented poorly, are still better than the opposition. Again, we'll never know, but that's my opinion. But based on his failures regarding the Epstein files, even with the ramping up of deporting illegal immigrants, it's still been a lackluster effort compared to how many we have here. So I'm disappointed in that. The 50-year mortgage and other economic policy. the foreign policy or the foreign. I'm not a Trump fan by any means, but I do think that we need to deport the illegal immigrants, and supporting that is not the same as necessarily supporting Trump or MAGA. I also think Pam Bondi should be arrested, right? So I'm very much a person of both sides aren't at their best.
Right, but currently there's one side that has full and total complete power in the federal government, and another side who doesn't. And so we're seeing what happens when you have unfettered control by the right. Because, I mean, the Supreme Court has 5-4, if not 6-3, to support most of the rulings that Trump might want to. You have, you know, it's not filibuster proof, but you have, you know, the Republicans control the Senate, control the House, control the White House. So, I mean, there's really not much that the Democrats can do at this point. So it's all, this is all on Trump and everything that is being done. And while, you know, we clearly disagree on many of the things that, you know, I've said, you know, that from the first term, I think I could pinpoint a few things that I said, okay, Trump did this, I agree with it. But that being said, there's so much more. I mean, there's just so much more harm that are being caused, and there's so much gaslighting that takes place. I mean, would you say though that, you know, as somebody who voted for Trump and whatever, do you feel like almost betrayed by what he's done so far, that he's gone against what he promised y'all, that he would go against the worst of the worst, the bad hombres, and in reality he's going after people who are, there's been people detained and deported who are here legally? You know, do you feel that he's betrayed your trust and your confidence about, you know, when it comes to all that sort of things?
I think that's a pretty accurate word. I'm still holding on to a small bit of hope because we still got some time left, but my hopes are not high. So I think betrayed is a fairly good word.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, it's good to see that you were. And look, like, for example, the person who murdered Laken Riley, if they wanted to send that person away to some other foreign prison instead of being here, I'm not going to sit here and cry and complain about the person who was found guilty of murdering Laken Riley. Fine, but to me, like, they use Laken Riley's murder to justify going after, again, the worst of the worst, and then they're not going after the worst of the worst. The people that are going to be, like, you know, J.D. Vance said, they're going door to door. Like, going door to door is not an efficient way, would you say, to go after the people who are here in violation of our border policies, right?
I mean, if we threw morality out the window just for the sake of a hypothetical, and our only mission was to get rid of every illegal immigrant, irregardless of the collateral, I mean, yeah, going door to door with as many officers as you have would probably be the quickest way to do it.
But I mean,
I don't agree with doing it that way, for the record. But if that was your only mission, I think that would probably be a good way of doing it. Yeah.
But if you're going door to door, and how many doors have people who are here in violation of our border policies versus how many doors are just people who, you know, maybe have a last name that sounds like they could be, like, you know what I mean? Like that's the problem. That's why we have a lack of trust. One of the reasons why we have a lack of trust in this administration is that they are, if they would go after the people who they said they would go after, then, you know, you get less pushback. You get less, because, like, I don't want anybody who's a pedophile or a rapist or a murderer, domestic abuser. I don't want those people to be allowed into the country. I mean, you know, yes, they should be, you know, if they're seeking asylum, then, you know, they get their asylum claim, and they should have that claim adjudicated. But, you know, you have an administration that is, you know, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that every person who is detained by Border Patrol, detained by ICE, has the right to challenge their detainment, file a writ of habeas corpus to make sure that they are allowed to be that. And this administration's not listening to that. They're not following it. They've basically picking and choosing what laws they want to follow, and if you do that, and what rights they want to protect, and if you can pick and choose the rights that you can protect, then do we really have rights to begin with? And that's one of the, you know, concerning things about this administration, to me at least, is that, you know, we don't have these rights, and, you know, to protect. They're really not there to protect the criminals. They're to protect the innocent people from being charged as if, or treated as if they are criminals when they're not. And that's why everybody has to get those protections. Do you agree with that? It's
a tough one. In principle, I do. However, and I know the however thing, I'm sorry, that's just a common thing that I say, but
that's fine.
I agree in principle, but the problem that I have with it is, and it is perhaps an immoral, selfish concern, and you could put it that way if you wish, but with the number of illegal immigrants in here, right? They've officially said there's something like 10 to 20 million, but I would imagine since they're illegal and we don't have a lot of them documented, there's probably more than that. So if you allow all of these people, and of course, since they came here illegally, they're going to use every single process they can to delay getting deported. We're going to have to spend millions, if not billions of dollars in tax money going through these court proceedings, paying for these illegals, and then they get to stay here and eat and all this other stuff while we're funding it, essentially. And so that's hurting the American people. You know, I don't think we're better than any other people, but you know, the job of the American government is to look after the American people. And so when you're seeing this massive fraud being committed by, you know, Somali immigrants in Minneapolis, supposedly.
I have to interrupt you on that one. I really
Go
need
ahead.
to interrupt you on that one. Why is there being Somali relevant to the story? That's
It's
the one.
not. It's just that's who's committing it at this time, and so that's why I said that. It's not.
Right,
It could be.
right.
It could have been Arabs. It could have been Chinese. It could have been anyone. It doesn't really matter.
It could have been the white woman who ran one of the rings that had 80 people arrested and convicted on it, but you know, it's more convenient to blame the people who were underneath her doing the fraud who happened to be Somali than the white person who was in charge of it. My point with that is that I really wish that people would think about these sort of things more in a more thoughtful way, I guess. I'm not saying you're not trying to be thoughtful. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of times, you know, when they're Somali. It's you know, I brought this up because I was raised Jewish. I'm not practicing. I practiced enough as a kid. I don't need any more practice like Allen Iverson with practice. But you have you have this, you know, thing where, is it relevant to bring up somebody's like, oh, there's somebody who's a Jewish person, and there are several Jewish executives who run Hollywood movie studios. So does that mean that Jews run Hollywood, or does that mean that the people who are in charge of these movie studios just happen to be Jewish? Like that sort of thing. Like that's where my line of thinking comes. Like, is the person who committed this, you know, mass murder was, you know, Timothy McVeigh? Did people call him a Christian, someone who was raised Christian? No, they didn't do that with Timothy McVeigh. They just refer to him as a domestic terrorist for attacking, you know, the Oklahoma City building, a federal building or whatever. So I would I urge people to say, like, if it's relevant to the story, then by all means include it. But if it's not relevant to the story, I just wonder why that becomes relevant. And that's why a lot of the people on my side of the aisle tend to view the attacks, because I don't want anybody committing fraud with our tax dollars, not one bit. And I absolutely support like audits and stuff like that. You want to audit the Fed, you want to audit, you know, Congress, you want to audit, you know, any individual entity that's a part of government or that's related to government, that works with government. You accept government funds, you want to audit them, by all means do so. But do so in a way that deals with the things that are relevant, and not the things that are irrelevant. To me, the fact that they have Somali heritage is irrelevant because of all of the people that have so far been convicted in any sort of schemes in Minnesota for whatever pertaining to it. I think there's about 70,000 Somali folks of Somali heritage in Minnesota, and less than 1/10% of those people have been indicted or have been convicted of crime. So to me, their being Somalian has nothing to do with the crimes that they took place, because somebody is not any more likely to be somebody who is you know, criminal because they're from Somali heritage than they are for being Latino, than they're being white, they're being Jewish, what have you.
I was not saying Somali to infer that like Somalis are more likely to steal. I was just saying it to represent the fact that they are illegal immigrants. And while fraud is always bad, it stings a little bit more when it's being done by somebody who's not supposed to be here in the first place. Was all I was really getting at. And I do think that the government officials orchestrating these schemes should most certainly, you know, according to the Constitution, politicians who commit treason should be hung, and that I kind of agree with that. So, I think these politicians should be punished.
Does fraudulence lead to actual treason or not? I don't know about that. But one of the other,
it's something that would need to be debated. But
and I keep having this train of thought, and it keeps leaving. I keep losing the train of thought. I don't know why I keep forgetting. But back to we're calling people who are here, the illegals. I try not to use the word. Obviously, people on the left don't like to use the word illegals. We like to use undocumented before the other ones, whatever. But
Right.
this administration has taken actions that have turned people here legally into people who are not here legally. For example, like it or not, the Biden administration did give a group of people more than the 500,000 humanitarian parole. And yes, humanitarian parole can be revoked or whatever, as the people who support the administration are apt to say. But if somebody comes here and they're granted humanitarian parole, that's somebody who came here legally, and then revoking that parole, it's nothing that they did. I mean, if you revoked an individual's parole because they assaulted somebody, they're charged with a crime, they committed fraud, whatever, then yeah, absolutely, revoke that individual's parole. But this administration completely blanket, like, took away the humanitarian parole of like 500,000 people all at once, creating 500,000 people who are here. They came here legally, they were here legally, but then they were all of a sudden, with a snap of a finger, made to be here not legally. They were put in a state of legal limbo, I guess I would say. But that's not fair. You have the people who, just because they're from a certain country, the conservatives are like, well, just do it the right way. Come here, and get in line. Go through naturalization processes. This administration has pulled people out of line from getting naturalized because they're from the wrong country. But these are people who did things
banned,
the right
75
way.
countries?
Right, the 75 might have been more at this point. But the point is not the countries that were listed. It's the point that these people were doing things the right way, and then they said, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to allow you to be naturalized because of where you're from." And to me, you can't tell people do things the right way and then yank them out of line when they did things the right way just because they happen to be born of parents who are from a country that you don't happen to like. So there are a lot of people who are, it is also legal to come across the border and declare asylum. In fact, during the first Trump administration, they closed down the ports of entry for those types of things. So the only way that one could claim asylum would be, now look, would it be better if we would have a system set up where you could request asylum at any embassy or any sort of diplomatic outpost anywhere in the world, so you don't have to come and travel all these miles, that you could be like, hey, I would like to declare asylum, and this is why, and then you have it treated there instead of here, and then if you get asylum, then fine, we'll bring you in. Perfect. But that's not the case that it is. But unfortunately, sometimes you can absolutely cross a border without papers, but still declare asylum, and that's still a legal act to do. Even if you want, they have the Remain in Mexico policy now or whatever, but it's always been legal to declare, to want to declare and claim and request asylum. And so there are a lot of people who are being named as if they're being illegal here illegally, but in reality they came here legally, they're following all the rules, they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, and they're still being detained, deported, etc. for no reason other than the fact that they're others. And that's why you have a lot of lack of trust in the administration. That's why I don't believe the numbers that are coming out of the administration as it pertains to the number of people who are, quote, here illegally, because they've taken people who were here legally and have acted on them. And that's why you're going to see a lot of pushback for it.
Okay, so you touched on a lot of points. I do agree that it is unfair to the people who got their citizenship or their legal status revoked. It is unfair to those people, and I agree with that. I think I would have, and with the 75 country ban, I think it's weird that he's picking and choosing. I would have found less problem with it if he just did a blanket halt on immigration, because I do think with our, if the illegal immigration numbers are remotely accurate, I think that would constitute an emergency that justifies halting immigration temporarily. But the picking and choosing is weird. And then he's also bringing in hundreds of thousands of H-1B visas this year. So it's very hypocritical, the stance on it. It's like, we want to get rid of these ones, but we want to bring these ones in. And so it is strange. And I also understand the lack of trust in the administration. I also have a lack of trust in the administration. To be fair, I think every American should always have a lack of trust in every administration, because that's what keeps people paying attention to things. So I get that. You're not at fault for that. it's a tough situation because I think in order to be fair to the American people at the state that we're currently in, you kind of have to be unfair to the illegal immigrants, because to treat the illegal immigrants with fairness would be being unfair to the American people.
Well,
because
I mean, oh, go ahead. Finish your sentence, and finish your sentence. I'll make my point.
I was just going to say, because of the associated costs, the crimes that they're committing, which I know it gets debated on both sides, how bad it actually is, but any crime from illegal immigrants, in my opinion, is too many. And so just the associated costs with them remaining here over time is a disservice to the American people.
One of the things that I've done in when I'm trying to research this subject or whatever is that there is one state that's very, very good, apparently, at keeping data about people who are not documented, people who are here, legal residents, not legal residents, etc., and citizens, and that's the state of Texas. Shockingly enough, they actually keep. I mean, maybe it's not that shocking because you on the border, maybe you do want to have some sort of information, and the data from Texas shows specifically that the individuals who are undocumented are far less likely to commit crimes, especially violent crimes, than people who are here legally, especially people who are citizens. So the odds are is that people who are not here, following our border policies are not going to want to draw attention to themselves. They're going to want to live their lives. They're going to want to work their jobs, get paid under the table, and then not not draw the attention of anybody out there. They're going to draw as little attention to themselves as possible. So the scariness of people who are here in violation of our border policies, it doesn't necessarily fly with me because again the data shows that they're much less likely to commit crimes than other people. Now you'll say, well, crossing illegally is a crime, but typically it's more of a civil infraction. But even then, a lot of the times, again, you're declaring asylum because you crossed a border, but you're declaring asylum, you're doing all this other stuff. And then maybe had we, passed the bipartisan legislation that was proposed during the Biden administration that was written by, I believe, a senator from Oklahoma, Republican senator from Oklahoma at that maybe we would have been able to help adjudicate these cases more quickly. But again, Donald Trump didn't want that to happen because if you started seeing progress on, the adjudication of these asylum cases and making sure that we deal with the people, who are valid asylum seekers and make sure that they're welcomed here while kicking out the ones who are not valid asylum seekers and as such not welcome here, then he wouldn't be able to use it as a campaign issue. And that's one of the other things that, just is jarring hypocritically is that it's politicians who won't support something while they're not in charge. Like hell, during John Kerry's run in 2004, John Kerry kept on saying, I have a plan on how he would solve whatever it is he was going to solve, be it the problem in the Middle East or the problem with this country or whatever, but he never said what the plan was. So if you're not going to say what your plan is, why should I believe that you have a plan? And that's again my distrust on my side of the aisle too, because I don't just have a podcast during the red years. I have a podcast during the blue years too, and I will absolutely be critical of the Democrats who do things that I disagree with. In fact, I'll sometimes be even louder about it especially when they piss me the fuck off because I think they should be doing better and they're not. So I will absolutely be critical of the Democrats when they're being shitty too. But as of right now, again, we have a government that's completely run by the Republicans, and there's not much that the Democrats could do except for maybe filibuster sometimes. And even then, you have some Democrats that lack the spine to hold to their convictions, and then they let things through, like the end of some of the Obamacare subsidies or whatever. So again, it's not a black and white issue. I'm Liberal Dan Radio. I'm going to be partisan, but still I am going to be critical of those people who I feel are failing to uphold those ideals that I think are important to uphold. And so, and it does sound like, I mean, there's just with you, it seems like there was some hedging of some bets there or whatever, and you're like, yeah, you're disappointed with Trump, but you still would have voted for him because you don't necessarily see the policies of whatever. And maybe, I would welcome you to call back another time because I probably do want to move on with potential to give the other people's a chance to call in if they do want to call in.
Sure.
But look. I hope this is not your first time listening to the show. I hope you will continue to watch. I hope you, again, we're live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at this point, 8 p.m. Central Time. And I hope you'll feel free to call in again and we can discuss all the other issues. And I will say that I appreciate the manner in which you had this debate. I've had other people call in who were pieces of shit, and you're clearly not acting like one of those. It's nice to be able to have good civil conversations about that. And you seem to be receptive to the points that I made as to why I disagree with perhaps some of the ways that you worded things. So, do you have any last things before we move on potentially to another caller?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Number one, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And number two, thank you for having a reasonable, level-headed discussion. The biggest concern for me is, the left and the right.
Call from.
All right. Appreciate you. All right. Well, we do have somebody calling in.
Accept, press 1. To
So
send
let
a
me
voicemail,
accept
press
that one,
2.
and we will move on. And thank you very much. And you have a good rest of your day. All right. Did I lose you? Hey, Christine. Hey, how you going? I think we lost the other guy. So, but again, thank you again for calling in to the other person. But good to hear from you, Christine. How are you tonight?
Doing good. I just want to say, hopefully we are still a country of the fucking people, by the fucking people, and for the fucking people.
I would like to believe that we can return to that place. I don't know if we're currently at that place at the moment because of who's in charge. But I would absolutely. Shouts out to 250 Kilo Ohm for resubscribing for the 4th month at Tier 1. Appreciate you. 250 Kilo Ohm. Thank you for that. Anyway, but yeah, I would like to be in that position. I just don't think that we are currently. I think we're of some people, by some people, for even fewer people. But we need to move back to that. Unless you're talking about actually of the fucking people, then that's a whole topic for Liberal Dan After Dark, right? So.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about on Liberal Dan After Dark.
That will be coming.
Story.
If my job wouldn't have dissolved, that might be a thing already had my job not decided to dissolve the fucking whole law firm altogether. But, that's, as Donnie Boy says.
It is what it is.
Will it be coming soon?
That deserves the George Takei one. Oh, my. Yes. Liberal Dan After Dark, coming soon. So, yes. So, anyway. We're going to have a fun time on Liberal Dan After Dark. I can tell that. So,
Oh, yeah. I've got lots of stories for you.
Nice.
But
we're looking forward to it.
We can get to fun after we fix this fucking country.
Yes.
Because it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to the world, but you are living what my life has been for the last 30 years under a malignant narcissistic abuser.
Kimchi goes, you've been saying that for 2 years, Dan. Stop teasing us. Well, isn't that the point of having After Dark? There's got to be some tease there, right? No, but seriously, I would have had it started by now had it not been for the fact that my job is dissolving or whatever, and it's going away by March 15th. So, it's Render Monkey's like, drunk Dan in the dark after what? Who knows? Maybe we'll do some episodes of Liberal Dan Radio After Dark with some intoxication. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some. Maybe I'll drink some of the cider that you guys buy me. Right? Anyway.
But I know what the country's going through because I personally experienced it. And yeah, it's not fun, but you need to walk away. And if they don't let you walk away, punch them in the fucking nose, and then they'll let you walk away.
Yep.
That's how you deal with bullies and narcissistic abusers, which is the Trump administration.
I don't know. When I was bullied during a little bit when I was in elementary school, I had this one guy, or actually it was two people that was bullied, one guy and one actually young girl or whatever. I was fourth or fifth, I think it was fourth grade, maybe third grade. I think it was fourth grade. And like I would come home and I had like scratches on my arms, and like I would just be like look like a cat went after my arms after like every day of school. And my mom would call in and complain and be like, this needs to stop, and it would never stop. So my mom at that point was like, if it ever happens again, the next time it happens, hit her once, hit her hard, and let it be that, and then you tell me that it happened so I know how to deal with it when you get home. I'm like, but they're gonna punish me. I'm like, don't worry about what they do, just worry about what I do, and I'm telling you that you can protect yourself. And I did. It happened once, and it never happened again. I did get in trouble at school. They moved my desk instead of hers, but at the end of the day, I was able to, I stopped the bullying. So sometimes the way with dealing with bullying is not to walk away, but is to punch them square in the face. So, someone's making popcorn, and I'm smelling it right now. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
Totally agree, because it's the local school bully. It took two bloody noses. One to teach him not to fuck with my daughter. Mm-hmm. The second was teach him not to fuck with my daughter's friends.
Well,
so
you're a good parent for that, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So.
And a second bully tried to enlist bully number one to, quote, get my daughter. Mm-hmm. Bully number one said, fuck you, I'm not fucking with her anymore.
That's exactly what you got to do. That's why you got to stand up to bullies.
Belladonna. Sorry.
That's okay. Which is the problem, though, is that unfortunately, too many people in the media have not learned that lesson, because too many people in the media will allow Trump to bully them instead of standing up to the bully that is Trump. Which sometimes you just need to, even if it's a legal lawsuit wise, give them a legal lawsuit smack in the face to deal with it, right?
Yep. You have to stand up, and that's the only thing they understand is. Now, the first bloody nose, I will say, happened on the playground, and this bully and all the bully elite kids in the apartment complex thought it was funny that they would take younger kids' toys and throw them up on the roof. Mm-hmm. Well, this bully tried to take my daughter's dinosaur, which she's a total... She asked me when she was 4 if she could be a paleontologist, so she was totally into dinosaurs.
Right.
And so when they tried to take her dinosaur, her dinosaur bit the bully on the nose. She fucking clocked him with it.
Nice.
And then he, in the library at school a year later, he knocked her friend over in her chair and broke her friend's arm. Now, nobody really knows. I mean, he was trying to get away from the scene of the crime, so it could have been the chair leg. He might have tripped over his own 2 feet, or it might have been my daughter's foot. Nobody really knows. But he got detention with the janitor, and his first duty was to clean up his own blood off the library floor, because he kissed the floor.
Well, good for him. I like to see a good bully getting what's coming to them, and well, hopefully some other bullies will get what's coming to them soon too, right? So
but it's the only way. I mean, I don't approve of violence. I don't, but sometimes Belladonna.
I've told my kids, look, if you do not resort to hitting, I've not raised them to hit, but if they need to defend themselves, to hit hard and make sure they hit last. So, and hell, to my oldest son's school's credit, at least back at his previous school before he moved on to high school, there was a circumstance where there were 2 bullies bullying him at the water fountain or whatever, and they pushed him, and he pushed right back, and the teacher caught it, and the teacher didn't put him in trouble, but they put the other ones in trouble. I was like, good, Thank you, teacher, for doing the right thing and seeing what happened and not letting it be the case of, oh, the second person who hits is the one who gets in trouble. In this case, it was the one that was, he was able to stand up for himself, and he never really got picked on again by those two people. So sometimes there's lessons to be learned there when it comes to that. The only people you should be hitting are people who consent to it, but that's another topic for Liberal Dan Radio After Dark.
And I was raised to not start a fight, but I could damn well finish one.
Yep, exactly. Don't start it, but finish it. 100%.
Yep. And anyway, y'all have a great night.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you called in. Appreciate you for calling in. I'm sure we'll get more calls in when we start the new show eventually. I don't know how often it will be, but it will. We'll see how it goes, and if it goes well, then we'll do it more often. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll start off at once a month or something like that. Maybe it'll be a February thing, or we'll start it off sometime next month and go from there and see how it goes.
I've got to calm my dogs down. They're kind of my weapons at this point. 10-month-old Belladonna, 22 inches at the shoulder and stands 3.5 feet tall.
Wow. Well, give the pups a good scratch for me and give them love from Liberal Dan.
Well, you're on speaker, so they're listening to you. So they're kind of. Oh, now she's bringing toys. Okay, gotta go.
All right. Well, you have a great one. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, hon.
All right, bye. All right, let's go ahead and put the number back up. We'll leave it up for a few more minutes if anybody else wants to call in. For the Death Leaper over on Twitch. Yeah, the reason that I tried to do a put it on hold, or maybe I put you on hold instead of putting her on hold, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe that was the issue. Maybe I'm not used to having people call in at the same time. But since we were ending the call, I was not concerned about the overlap or whatever. That's probably what happened. Kimchi, I'm a writer, not a fighter. I do need to start writing my book too. If I would have completely lost a job with no idea of what would happen, maybe I would consider doing that. Putting more effort on my book as well. But what was it? Kimchi said I have the patience of a parent with octuplets. I can't imagine having octuplets, but oof. But yeah, patience of a mom with octuplets, even better. So there you go. Let's see, Brenna, I still go to therapy because of my kids. They're adults now, but they deserve the best of me. Fair enough. Thank you, JD Christie, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you for the support. Thank you so much. Thank you, Molly, for the show, and thank you for watching. Appreciate you as well. Let's see, what else? Jeff still gets no connection. I don't know what the hell's wrong with your phone and why you can't connect. It's bizarre. Unless you're just fibbing, making it all up as you go. Maybe you're just pulling it out of Uranus, right? Get it? Because you live just north of Uranus. Haha, funny. But man, sometimes it just sucks. And we do have 103 concurrent viewers on YouTube, but only 67 likes. So if you're still watching the show and you haven't smashed that like button, please make sure to do so. It helps the algorithm, and Al Gore needs more rhythm. So yes, Christine was fun. Thanks. Always good to have Christine call in, or anybody call in, really. I like having people calling in who usually don't. Not to say that it's anything bad with having Big Ho coming. DPD, how's the job search coming along? I'm hoping to have some announcements on that sometime soon, but I don't want to jinx anything. So let's just say it that way. It's promising, but not 100% confirmed yet. So we will, when I have the good news, I'll share the good news. What's just bizarre though is, like, for the current job that I'm currently in, like today they had something to do and I immediately jumped to it and got it done and whatever. But it's weird. It's just surreal doing a job. It's absolutely surreal doing a job that the better you do it, the more soon you are likely to help close the firm that you're working at. Now, granted, because I work at a location that I'm at. They had to give me 60 days notice because of federal warn notice laws or whatever. So really, I'm not really working myself out of a job, because even if I have no work to do, I still technically get paid, which is weird. Just I guess that's why they're not giving severance, because they want to be able to have you continue doing your work or whatever. But anyway, Surrender Monkey says, oh, for fuck's sake, I was early for the 69. Now we have 69 likes. So 69 likes. Nice. Or as George Takei would say, oh wait, I didn't. There, as George Takei would say.
Oh my.
Anyway, so somebody else is calling in. We're going to go ahead and shut the phones down. We did have several calls today, which is nice. We had four different callers. Yeah, 4 different callers, 2 of which called multiple times. But oh wait, here we go. Never mind. We do have a call coming in. Let's see who we got. Hey, what's going on? Oh.
Hey, are you European or are you Hispanic? Can't even tell.
Am I European or Hispanic? My ancestry is like pretty much 100% European or whatever, but I'm born and raised in America.
Why do you have a gay ting to your voice? Are you a faggot?
Yeah, I figured that was going to be happening. Yeah, we can block that number at this point. Yeah. I am pan. I have said that I am pan, whatever, but you know, it is what it is, and we don't judge it. I guess I can't block the number because it's from unknown. So I guess that's the case. We're not going to deal with unknown numbers anymore. So I guess that's the first thing. No unknown numbers. Unknown numbers get blocked or get not answered. So anyway, we have Do Not Disturb on now anyway, as it is. So even if they do call, it's not going to happen. And we have two more attempts from this unknown to call in, but we're on Do Not Disturb, so go F yourself. Yes, Laney, pansexual. We can talk more about that in the Liberal Dan Radio After Dark, but basically the reason I call myself pansexual is because one of the people who I used to date, hook up with or whatever, is somebody who was not out as a trans man before. All I knew was that he was, somebody who was assigned female at birth. And I didn't find out that they were trans until after they had passed away. However, I'm not going to dishonor his memory by referring to him any other way than how he would have wanted to be referred to. So he was a trans man, and if he would have came out of the closet and said that he was a trans man while we were dating, I wouldn't have stopped dating him. So there you go. There are other folks who I've seen or whatever, who I've been interested in, who are non-binary as well. So to me, at the end of the result is like my attraction to somebody that has nothing to do with what is on somebody's birth certificate. Has to do with their attractiveness level, and of course also the good person that they are. But anyway, yes. Kimchi is unsexual a thing. That's me at 59. Maybe you'll become more sexual in 10 years when you become 69.
Oh my.
Anyway, yes, trolls are absolutely disgusting. 250 Column says, "Tell them why are you cruising for?" That's my usual comeback. Actually, is when somebody tries to make some comment about whether or not I would whether or not I'm gay or whatever. Yeah, I basically would to say, why are you fantasizing about me? It's kind of creepy. I mean, keep your fantasies to yourself, bruh. So, let's see. Kimchi, I love that. I tend to fall in love with brains first and then confirm with scent. You got to make sure to shower, right? And we can have all that sort of talks when we eventually do the new show or whatever. I told my now late husband that I would never leave him for another man. I didn't say anything about women. Well, I mean, men are constantly proving to everybody in the world, basically, that attraction is not a choice. Because if attraction were a choice, there'd be a lot more lonely dudes out there. Because there are lots of dudes that are just not, anything to give that is at all meaningful, worthwhile, or etc. Let's see. Also, it has to deal with the unsexual thing. Is that kind of like the uncola, like 7-Up? But if you have 7-Up something, then I never mind.
Oh my.
what's the meme that the Pawn Stars guys does? Best I can do is 6 or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, we're getting too dirty at this point at the end of the show. Let's see. LOL Steve, or if Arabic numerals should be taught. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones to troll the conservatives with. Oh no, Mamdani wants to bring in and have make sure that the students learn Arabic numerals. Terrible. Steve, I'm totally straight sapien. Fair enough. Wait. I'm horrified. I've only cheated on all my girlfriends with trifles. Wait, so with like, you know, like a traditional English trifle, or like an actual trifle, unlike the one that Rachel screwed up at Friends. Anyway, but in reality, Kimchi, with me, it's I'm kind of feel like I'm not demi. Like, there are people who are demisexual who require some sort of emotional commitment to be with somebody. I'm kind of almost the reverse when it comes to that. Like, I do have, you know, feelings and fall in love with people. Obviously, I'm married to my wife for however long, since 2007, dating for longer than that as well. You know, 777 was our wedding date. So there's that. But when it comes to, like, physical stuff, like, there needs to be, to me, it's less of a, it's not, physical attraction is obviously nice, but I wouldn't need a physical attraction if there is a mutual interest in things. And we can maybe go into more detail on that when we do Liberal Dan Radio After Dark. We'll just leave that hanging out there for the future. Can I not mention that I can spell with my hips? Should I not mention that I'll mention my, I can spell with my tongue too. I guess I'd put it that way. And maybe that should be the end of this week's episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right. We're getting far too dirty at this point, I think, for the regular show. So we will be back unless there's something huge that happens over the weekend. Well, you know, obviously if there's like a big Supreme Court ruling or something. I know I have plans tomorrow night, but if there's something big that happens over the weekend, I will create a special episode. I'll announce it on all my social media channels. Liberal Dan Radio on Instagram. Now apparently I'm getting tons of views on Instagram with my shorts that I'm uploading, which is great. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, any place where there's social media. If you can't find me as Liberal Dan Radio on a particular place on social media and you want to, email me at liberaldanradio@gmail.com and let me know where you'd like to see me so that I can go ahead and so I can go ahead and, you know, create an account over there as well so you can follow those socials everywhere too. I've actually started uploading some of my videos to to Facebook as well, on facebook.com/liberaldanradio. Again, tons of places to go. Support the show, like, comment. Again, I've noticed a significant jump after creating all those shorts. I've seen a significant jump simply from y'all commenting on videos. It's awesome. Keep doing it. It's going to help the show grow. It's going to get more of an audience. Of course, Hal's wonderful raids don't hurt matters either. But again, until till next Monday, unless something happens before 8 p.m. Central, upcoming Monday, I will see y'all then. And before then, we will go ahead and listen to some more of the Liberal Dan Radio music, including Atrocious at Every Game's favorite, Had Biden Done It. So hope y'all have a great night, great weekend. Stay warm. It's actually going to be colder in New Orleans and under freezing, even colder next week, this upcoming weekend than the last one. Lots of stuff to deal with. Lots of stuff I have to deal with tomorrow as well pertaining to that. That's fun. But anyway, have a good one. Peace.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd scream foul play, but Trump did it, so it
treason if chosen name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, full numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. The testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. An administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find. The proof of a system that's cold and unkind. A chaotic secret, an NDA sign. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still. Just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Kill the ants here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest.
I ache for the touch of your lips, dear, but much more for the touch of your whips, dear. You can raise welts like nobody else as we dance to the masochism polka. Let our love be a flame, not an ember. Say it's me that you want to dismember. Blacken my eye, set fire to my tie as we dance to the masochism polka. At your command, before you here I stand. My heart is in my hand. Ugh, it's here that I must be. My heart entreats, just hear those savage beats, and go put on your cleats and come and trample me. Your heart is hard as stone or mahogany. That's why I'm in such exquisite agony. My soul is on fire, it's aflame with desire, which is why I perspire when we coca. You caught my nose in your left castanet, love. I can feel the pain yet, love. Every time I hear drums and I envy the rose that you held in your teeth, love, with the thorns underneath, love, sticking into your gums. Your eyes cast a spell that bewitches. The last time I needed 20 stitches, oh, to sew up the gash that you made with your lash as we dance to the masochism polka. Bash in my brain and make me scream with pain, then kick me once again and say we'll never part. I know too well I'm underneath your spell, so darling, if you smell something burning is my heart, excuse me, take your cigarette from its holder and burn your initials in my shoulder. Fracture my spine and swear that you're mine as we dance to the masochism polka.